Alright gamers, today we're going to review a spin-off game from Mice and Mystics, Tailfeathers. Let's check it out. Just to start off here, I wanted to show you what the board would look like. Now I had to scrunch everything in so to fit in the same shot, but you're going to have these little tree mats here that are going to have spaces that are denoted from the bark, the moss, the skin bark. Those are all spaces. The trunk is not a space, but you'll set them up and they'll be way farther apart than this. Like I said, I just want to get it on the same shot. Sometimes you'll have this middle area where you can fight over. Most times you're just going to have a little compass in the middle of it all. Again, the book has an excellent rule book, and there is a scenario book with not as many scenarios as you'd find in Mice and Mystics, but they do give you an area in the back that tells you, like here's the setup again, also tells you how to build your own army and put up your own little, design your own scenario here. You're going to have these cards here. They're going to have different birds and mice in it that you can use, and the scenario will tell you what you get to use and when. You also have returning characters from Mice and Mystics if you have that game. So Imaginos, Tilda, Colin, Filch, Lily, and Nez will also be playable characters from Mice and Mystics. If you have them, you can play them in the game. There are some villains too, rat warriors, roaches, and centipedes, and spiders if you want to add those in. And the game will give you scenarios where you can add those in. We're usually just going to pick two characters here, a bird and a rider, and it'll tell you, the scenario will tell you which one you pick. Sometimes you have riders who are experienced, sometimes as beginner, and it will tell you which one you need. So there'll be two snibbles, the beginner one and the advanced one. And what you would do is you'd put these two together like so. Now you see here it made it look like a little circle in between. That's going to come in handy because you're going to combine their stats together. So this is their attack, this is their shield, this is their, of course he has a bow and arrow here, so this is for range attacks, this is for movement. And then of course you'll combine their health. So for instance, once they get 5 hits total, that's when the bird will be captured, or they'll go in basically to your casualty pile is what they'll do. And so they'll go into your casualty pile, and even if this bird has 3 hits on it and this rider doesn't have any, you're still flying until you get, in this case, 5 hits. Now the models are really nice. As you see, we have some ground troops here. They're called the Oak Guard. They're for the heroes there. You can see that. Again, sculpts are beautiful. Of course, you have the bad guys, Snag's Commandos there. And of course, I can't remember his name. He's one of the big generals in the battle too he's one of the bad guys there. He's got some really awesome stats. One of the cool things about the commandos though, if you look on the belt there, he has, that's right, those are rat skulls. Whoa, kind of weird, kind of dark, but hey, I'll take it. That looks really awesome. The birds themselves look really nice. Again, Plaid Hat Games with excellent sculpts here. They're really good plastic too. I mean, let me look at one of the villain ones. It's a bigger bird here, but they're really nice and they really look pretty when they're on the board. Speaking of the board, you're going to start off with at least 2 birds for each person in this 2-player game. You're going to start off maybe with Stabora, the villain will, in certain scenarios, or you're definitely going to get some of Snag's Commandos or the Oak Guard. As you can see here, it says Combat Squad 3. That means you can move up to 3 of them per turn. So I may have like 4 Oak Guard. Well, I can only move 3 of them when I play the Oak Guard, when I activate it. When I activate it, I'll tap it to the center, just to tap it to the side, just to let you know I've already moved them once. But you can move 3 of them. Now, what if I don't have 3? Well, for anyone I don't move, I can just pass and I can get an extra cheese and add it to my cheese token wheel. Now, this is actually pretty good, the cheese token wheel in these, and I'll explain what you can do with these cheese tokens. Of course, you'll apply it to your own personal wheel. Each player will get one of these. They can have people in reserve, they have people on a mission, and then of course it gives you the round order here over to the top left corner. Now, when you pair a bird with a rider, it's going to be hard to separate which bird is which, right? Because they both look the same there. So what they gave you is actually these little markers here that you'll flip onto the base like so. So that tells me this is green number 2. And so for my cards, there's even a matching token I would place in the middle of that circle to show that it's a 2. And when I activate that bird and do its one action for the round, I would just flip this over to show that that bird has already been activated and can't be activated again until the next round. To decide who's going to be the starting player for each round, each player is going to roll 2 die, and the higher number of those gets to go first. Of course, you always want to go first, so you always want the higher roll. One thing you can do with all that cheese you've gathered from your cheese wheel, after the first round, of course, you won't have any cheese in the first round, but from the second round and going forward, you can grab cheese off your cheese wheel and basically do a blind bid, like both players will hand out their fist and reveal who has cheese. So this player, he has 1 cheese, he would get to throw an extra die in that. Alright, so just as another way you can use cheese to go first in the round. Now it doesn't guarantee you going first, it guarantees you get an extra die that you can roll to see if you can beat that other person's number, because whoever has the highest number goes first. All your birds will start in tilt position up here, showing they're perched right here on the edge and they are ready to fly off. There are different positions in the game we'll talk about in a minute. They're straight on, of course leaning to the left, leaning to the right, and you can tell what that's going to mean when you start flying around here in the open space. Now hopping back around to the oak guard, a few things they can do. Of course they can move and then do one of their actions. One of their actions, just like in Mice and Mystics, can be scurry, they can also attack, and they can even revive. Another thing is, just like in Mice and Mystics, if one gets knocked down, he may still defend himself while on the ground, but for his movement, he has to right himself, and that is his full movement for that round. Now before the first round, each player is going to pick one of their mission cards. There are several different missions they can have in the game, and I'll explain what each one of them does in a minute. But they're going to pick one of these, put them down, face down to where you can't see them, and put them within a short distance of the compass here. Now they have a measuring stick which measures distance here. It's really neat. This, where the bandage part is, that's short range. Of course, the entire stick is long range. And it says you must have the missions within short range of the compass. Now, just talking about this range stick here, this is really cool because it can basically tell you when 2 birds or 2 people can do battle, or bird versus regular ground crew can do battle. Anyone can do battle against each other here. When 2 birds are within the short stick range, you may fight them even if they don't match up. So if I'm within a short range there, I can shoot an arrow, do a range attack on him and take him down. Same thing if you are in the vicinity of one of the smaller units and then you're the bird, you may attack them. Smaller units may attack the bird, even on a range attack if it's within the size of this stick. So for instance, let's say I have these 2 mice here on this space here, and by the way, as you see, this is one whole space, all the skin bark here. You can fit up to 4 units on one space, or 1 big unit, meaning a bird, on one of those spaces. Can't have more than 4 unless you're talking about the nest, which I'll get to in a minute. So if I was to do a long range attack with this guy, first off I had to see if I was in range. Let's move him back just a little bit further here, and I would actually put the stick at the tail end of this tree limb here and reach out. If it touches the bird, which it does right here, that means I am within range. I am barely within range there. If I'm outside of range, I couldn't hit him, but if he's within my range, I can try to fire. And of course, range attacks would go as normal. Any of these arrows that are rolled would count as a hit, and of course the bird would get to roll their defense as shown on their card and roll a defense and see if they can defend themselves from any of those oncoming arrows. As you see, both the good guys and the bad guys are both shooting with crossbows, so range attacks are going to run wild. Now another very important thing that you need to do is you need to also put in your nest. Your nest will go into your home tree, can go on any one of your spaces here. Once you've put your nest down there, the scenario book will tell you how many points your nest has, and this is your little nest point counter. Let's say I had it at 10. Each time that nest gets attacked, you're going to slide down the nest counter, down, down, down to the very end. Once it gets there, you're probably going to lose the game, because that's what most scenarios are, is destroy the opponent's nest. Now, your nest is a place where anyone who is in your reserves, again, I'll talk about what reserves are later, but anyone from reserves will be moved to your nest area. That's kind of like your home base. So let's talk about flying, which is going to be one of the big things you're going to do in every game here. If you started back on this perch, or if you're in the air, the first thing you're going to do is want to tilt your bird whichever way you are going. And these things snap right off. They're on these little ball joints that hook right in. They're very easy to snap in. They'll snap into the base here. Setup's very easy on the bird. But anyway, you would cock it to the left. You want to go to the left, right, or center. You can only do it once before your flight. Then, according to the movement allowed by your bird, you're going to pick up however many of these little flight aviation guides that you need. So for instance, my bird can do 3. So I'd pick 1, 2, and for my third one, let me go with a short one. All right. Now, how this works is you'll start laying these out right here. As you see, my bird has these 3 little points there. I can put this here. If he's going straight, I'm going to put it on the center one. If he's lifting to the left, I'll put it on the left one. If he's going right, I'll put it on the right one. But let's say he's just going straight. I'm going to go straight after this bird. I place the first one out, then my second one, and then finally my third, which was a short one. And as you see, he will zoom straight across there and stop right here. This is kind of very similar to a miniatures battle. All right, so he's getting close, and if I'm within short range of him, which I probably am, I'm going to be able to attack him as well that round. But let's say if I wanted to turn slightly to the left, maybe. I was going after his mission. All right, and I'm right here. Well, first off, I'd start off everything on the leftmost corner. So of these 3, that's like a bird print here, I go the leftmost corner there, and of course the leftmost corner there. So in this case, my bird would swoop around, and he'd end his position this way. He's still cocked in that left leaning position until my next round, when I can move him again, have him adjust, maybe go straight this time. And I don't have to use all 3. If I want to stop him short, if I just want to use one, or let's say I just want to use one here and just do it here, put it third, he'd go right here, swing, and be right there, and then I'd right here on this circle part here, I'd remove that, and that's where he'd stay. So you don't have to use all 3 if you don't want to go that far. But that's how you can swing and fly around the entire board. Now, what would happen if I accidentally moved off the board? Oh no, that would be terrible. What happens then? Well, then your bird goes into your casualty pile. He got lost and blown away with the wind, I guess, and he's just gone. So he goes and takes a casualty. What would happen if he starts flying through some of these limbs? Nothing really. Now, he can choose while he's passing through, he can choose to go ahead and just stick on one and perch there. If that's what he doesn't have to hit exactly, he can just perch right there if he wants to. Or he can just fly on through it. Other things he can do, if there is one of my own characters there and I'm passing by here, I can actually pick him up for a ride and drop him off at another tree. What I just do is I would put this little mouse on that bird card there, showing that he is holding that bird. Now, if my bird goes down, if he gets defeated in battle, then this little minion here who's on my card, he's gone too. But if he doesn't, he can drop him off as he's swooping by the opponent's tree maybe, and just drop him off right there so he can start battling the opponent's nest. Now, I cannot pick up and drop off at the same time. I can only do one or the other on different turns. Now, some things that would be bad for my bird would be running into a tree stump. If I ran into a tree stump, I would get 2 damage tokens and I would get a rattled. What would happen is I put this rattled on my driver. Now, when you're rattled, the rider really can't do anything. He can't do regular attacks. He can still do swoop attacks, but he can't use any of his action cards or anything, and he stays rattled for the entire next turn. After that turn's over, you will remove the rattled from there. But that's just one of the ways I can get rattled. When I hit that tree stump, I do a 180. Now let's set up another scenario here. In your flight path, I am going to cross over a mission. Ooh. If you fly over a mission, you can do what's called a swoop attack. You can reveal the mission, and attack them. Now this one was a decoy. This is a very bad example here, but that one was a decoy, which means there wasn't anyone there. They fooled me. Oh no! But what if it was this one, which is a special thing? Well, what would do is when you put whoever you want in that mission, you're also going to assign certain mice to that mission and put them here on the card. Now you can't move them because they're assigned to that mission, even if it's a decoy. If a decoy is revealed, anyone who's in the mission thing here can go straight to your nest. All right, you can put them back into your nest here, and because it's been revealed as a decoy, you're just trying to get that bird preoccupied with something else. But if it is actual mission, then whoever is on this card can get attacked. So let's say I had these two guys here, they got revealed, and so now the bird may attack them. And of course, they would use the attack numbers on their cards. Of course, any mice or rats, if they're rats, they can defend themselves as well, and you can have a swoop battle as you're flying past them. Now, what if, those are missions there, what if you are flying and you cross a bird? Well, what if it's one of your own birds? Okay, it's a bird from your other team, and you're about to collide with it. Let's say me and this other bird are on the same team. He's there, I'm here. Well, I can't fly into him, I'd fly into him. What I would do is I could stop short right here to the nearest circled on the measuring stick, the nearest circle there, and I could just stay right there and avoid that conflict there. If I brush through them, I can, if I'm, maybe I was just passing by a friendly bird, if I did that, that's fine if it's one of my birds. But what if it's the opposition? Well, a few things could happen. If I land exactly near or on the same space as that other bird, then it's like a kamikaze here. We're both going to take damage. Or if I pass through him, then I will take a damage. He won't, but I will, because I passed through him. My bird kind of knocked his as I passed through. Now those are the basic rules. I don't play with the basic rules, man. I play with the advanced rule. That means if you brush by or land on the same area as the opponent, then what's going to happen is you're going to go into something called a death spiral. And what you're going to use is you're going to use this little token right here, and you're just going to connect both birds face to face. Doesn't even matter if they're facing face to face when they crossed over. For instance, this bird could be here, and I could have crossed over his back. I could be turning this way. I was trying to make a left turn to avoid him, but I ran right into him. Well, we're both going to be facing straight ahead, so it's going to look just like this. They're going to be straight head on, and then you're going to have a battle. You're going to assign whatever dice and roll. And so let's say this bird rolled first, and he hit, let's see, he got a cheese because he rolled a cheese there, but he got 2 hits. Well, now it's the next bird's turn. He rolls to see if he can defend, and he doesn't. Ooh, that is gonna suck. He's got 2 hits on him, and so that's how it's gonna work. I won. Both birds are turned 180 the opposite way. This bird gets 2 damage. If that was all the damage that he had left, he's gonna be removed from the game and put in that opponent's casualty pile. But what happened if we would have tied? Let's say I rolled 2 hits and he rolled 2 hits. What happens in that case? We both get a damage, and we both go to a second round in a death spiral. If we tie for a second time, then both of us are put in the casualty pile for each one of the players. But if someone wins, let's say I rolled 2 and he rolled 1. Well, does that mean I take 1 hit, he takes 2? No, he takes 1 hit, because 2 minus 1 is 1. So this bird would take 1 hit, and then we both turn around and go our merry ways. Now, speaking of advanced rules, there's another little advanced rule here that I love playing with. It is actually with the Tailfeathers. These little tokens here that whenever a bird gets a damage, could be from another bird, could be from one of the archers or whatnot, then they will have to drop some of these Tailfeathers. And what they'll do is they'll drop them at their tail and just drop them on the board. Now, if they land on another bird, or they land on a mission token, or they land on another Tailfeather that's already on the board, then those Tailfeathers will be removed from the game, and this Tailfeather shall remain. Now, Tailfeathers are very important, because if there's a Tailfeather on the board here, that blocks line of sight. So going back to an earlier example where I said I could shoot him because I have the range, but that tail feather is blocking me. That's going to block line of sight, and so I won't be able to shoot him. Now, there's other things that could be bad about it. If you pass through an area with a tail feather, you'll remove that tail feather from the board there, and your player will be stunned for that next turn. So that's not cool. At the end of the round, you will flip all the full tail feathers over to the splintered tail feather, but if they're already at the splintered tail feather, or even if they fail with the split tail feather first, on the next round they're going to be removed from the game. One other thing I forgot to mention, if you're having trouble figuring out which bird and what the character looks like, they actually have the characters on the back of the card, so you can actually see who it is that you need to get. I think that's really cool. Another thing they brought back from Mice and Mystics is the on fire token. If your mouse is on fire, of course he has to roll a die, and if he gets a star, he can remove the on fire status. If he doesn't, then he's going to get a damage. You can also put Nest on fire too, which is really cool. You can have them on fire, so you can put several on fire tokens on here, and they're going to take a damage for each on fire token they have at the end of every round. Now, of course, players can move their own people onto the nest and try to put out those fires one at a time by rolling a star, but any remaining fires that are on their nest do take a damage. This is a cool way to destroy your opponent's nest. One of the interesting items they have is the Ballista. This needs 2 mice on it to operate. It does not operate if it's being attacked, like meaning if there's an opponent on the token where you had it in the tree. The cool thing with ballistas, they don't need any range. You don't have to use the range stick, so they can shoot from long distances, and of course they have a lot of dice they can throw and hopefully get a hit. The only thing is with ballistas, when you build them, they come already exhausted, so once you build one, you can't use it that same round. You have to wait to the next round, and then you can use it again, because at the end of the round, everything that got tapped or got used flips back over. Now, looking back at the cheese wheel, besides spending cheese on getting extra die to roll to see who would go first, there's a few other things you can do. You can of course expend cheese to do any of the action cards that you have in your hand. You can also use a full amount of cheese to recover some of your people. You can either use it to recover a hero mouse, which would be someone that's actually pretty good, like this person here for the bad guys, or if you had the Mice and Mystics board game and you're using one of the hero mice, you could get one of them into your reserves, or you can get up to 3 of the regular Oak Guard or Snags Commandos and put them into your reserves. Now, at the end of the round, anyone in reserves would go back into your nest. Now, any excess cheese past 6 doesn't get used. You don't get to keep it. You have to throw it away. 6 is the maximum you can have at one time on your board. And you cannot save birds with 6 cheese. There's a different way to get the birds, and I'll get to that now. I told you about all the mission cards that you have here. And let me show you each different one that they have available for you. So the first one, of course, is Decoy. We talked about this earlier. This is one where you can just get the opponent to spend all their time worrying about whatever this mission is, and it turned out to be fake. That's really good. Once it's revealed, of course, anyone that you have in your mission here gets automatically deposited back into your nest. If you have Intercept, that means you get to attack the opponent's mission. So let's say the opponent was trying to do their special mission. Well, if I used Intercept, then whoever I had on this can attack the people over here and hopefully defeat their mission. So Intercept is to attack the opponent's mission. Siege is very cool. If you, at the end of the round, if you reveal this, then any mice that are on that mission, however many you assigned, will go straight to your opponent's tree. So I may have started here, but then at the end of the round, I put 3 mice on my opponent's tree, and that's really going to cause some trouble for the next round. Maybe I revealed this. It's a patrol. On a patrol, as you see, they're shooting up in the air. That means they're shooting one of you're shooting the opponent's bird. And so whatever many mice you have, of course, you'll roll a standard attack to see if you can get them. So that's really neat because the birds are very powerful and you want to take them out. You have rescue missions, and this is where you can rescue any of your birds that are in your casualty pile if you're successful here. Like no one killed all the mice on that mission. And then, of course, special could be any type of special mission as the scenario states. One last thing I want to talk about is leaf movement. There are leaves in the game. There are several in the game. They go in these little notches on the board here. So I have one here, they're denoted by A and B. They're all over here. I just put one out here just to show you for the training video. Now these leaves can fit up to 3 minions on it, or you can put 1 hero on it. And you can travel by leaf, by cutting this leaf and basically floating all the way to an opposing tree, any tree you want. Now, when you're traveling by leaf, there's a few things to keep in mind. First off, how to move. When you move, you're going to roll 1 die, and you're going to add whatever the number is on that die, which in my case is 2, to the number of people you have on that leaf. So 2 plus 3 is 5. So I get to do 5 moves on the leaf. You're going to take your little distance twig here. It's a double purpose. You're going to stick it. Let me just put one right here for now so you can see this. And you see there's 2 holes here. You're going to stick it in the hole and then twist that leaf around for 1. And then do it again for 2. Now as you see, you're slowly twisting it around and trying to get over here. Now if you come across any feathers in your leaf trip, you can remove them from the game. If you come across a mission and you pass over it, you may reveal that mission. If you come to a dead end against a bird, you'll have to move around that bird. Let's say this is my second turn, so 3, here we go again, 4, as you see I have to go around him, 5, and I can keep going in my same direction. I just have to move around the bird. You cannot move through the bird. In fact, if I was to run into an opposing leaf with my opposition on there, I would actually have to fight them because those leaves can be spaces there, and that means we'd be next to each other and a fight would ensue. Also watch out because opposing birds can attack you. If they pass by you, they can attack you while you're on a leaf. Now once you make it to the edge, a few things happen. First off, you can unload all of your mice as long as there is room on the tree limb space. Remember, I told you you can only have 4 units on one space. So what if the bad guys had 2 here and I had 3 here? Well, they all 3 can't fit there, so one of them's going to basically fall off the limb to his death and he'll go into my casualty pile. A little grim but true. And then this leaf will go back to the tree and it was on, and we'll just reattach it right here to the tree. So the leaves are they're never ending. You're always going to have leaves on the trees. And finally, the game is over when someone destroys their opponent's nest, and that is Tailfeathers. Final thoughts, what do I think about the game? Well, my battery died in between filming. I'm telling you, I have the worst luck on Mice and Mystics games and their spin-offs. This is kind of where miniatures meet board games. The whole checking for distance, the whole, the flight routes and everything. It seems fiddly. In fact, when I read the rules for this, I was like, ooh, I don't think I'll like it. I really did enjoy Mice and Mystics. I said, ooh, but I probably will not enjoy this. I ended up loving this game. I love Tailfeathers. I think it's just fantastic. Games go really quick. Once you get the hang of the whole range thing and getting, used to tilt and flying and, death spins and everything else that comes with getting rattled, the game is super fun. However, my only takeaway is I don't know who this was created for, because if you like Mice and Mystics, this is a completely different game. Sure, it uses pieces from Mice and Mystics, but it's a completely different game. There's not that many adventures in it. I think there's only 3 or 4. They did do a print and play adventure with this one as well, which I played. I played it afterwards. I think that's where it comes into the timeline there. You'd play it afterwards, maybe a Lost Tale or something. But I don't know who it's for, because I think miniature people will probably say there's better stuff out there. I'm not big on miniature games, so I wouldn't know. But I bet this isn't on anyone's top 100 of miniature games. And it's not like Mice and Mystics fans were clamoring for this. So kind of confusing. It seems like it should be its own game and not even connected to the Mice and Mystics world. I'm kind of wondering why they did that. But I'm glad they did, because if they didn't, I probably would have never have gotten it. You can find the game fairly cheap. I found it cheap secondhand online a lot. But the game is actually really, really fun. And like I said, once you get used to it, you will enjoy it. Do I like it better than Mice and Mystics? No, I probably like Mice and Mystics a little bit better. But this game is definitely a cool one to check out. All right, gamers, that is all the time I have for now. Until next time, All right, game on.